Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we're going to be talking about the Mona Lisa. Without further ado, let's begin today's lesson. The mysteries of the Mona Lisa have captured our imaginations for centuries. Her enigmatic smile and penetrating gaze reach out through the ages as if she were alive today. Are there secret codes hidden by Leonardo da Vinci in it? Researchers have never stopped looking for them through the centuries. Today's lesson has 3 parts. Part 1 discusses the title and subject of the Mona Lisa. Part 2 examines the history of the painting. Part 3 looks at the reasons why the painting is so famous. The Mona Lisa may be the most famous painting in the world, but interestingly, the name of the woman in the painting is not Mona Lisa. In Italian, Mona means my lady. So the name of the painting actually translates to My Lady Lisa. So who was Lisa? Well, popular accounts say that her name was Lisa del Giocondo. She came from an old aristocratic family in Florence that had lost much of their political influence. Eventually, she married a relatively wealthy merchant and government official at age 15. It's said her life was comfortable, though she was far from wealthy. In Florence at the time, wealthy families often collected art and paid artists to make works of art. Having art was seen as a sign of culture and social status. Lisa's husband, Francesco del Giocondo, is believed to be the one who paid for the painting to be made. Another fun fact is that the Italian title of the painting is actually a play on words. That means it uses one word to refer to 2 different words. In Italian, the painting is called La Gioconda, which means happy or in a happy mood. But it is also a clever reference to Lisa's last name, del Giocondo. It sounds like Leonardo is calling her Lisa of Happiness. Some art historians believe that Leonardo painted several versions of the Mona Lisa. In fact, the one that hangs in the Louvre Museum in Paris was not the painting Leonardo was paid to paint. Leonardo's biographer, Giorgio Vasari, claimed that the original version was left unfinished, and that Leonardo carried a personal version with him that he continued to work on for years. The painting was designed to portray Lisa as a loving wife from a wealthy family. Her right hand rests over her left hand, which is said to be a sign of faithfulness. She is also dressed in dark clothing, which reflects fashions that were in style at the time. Some scholars have said that the portrait depicts Lisa as more wealthy than she actually was. The fact that it is larger than many other similar portraits at that time is a reflection of Francesco's social aspirations. In other words, they were hoping an expensive portrait would give the impression of a higher social status. If this is true, maybe Francesco del Giocondo was a bit like a Chinese Bao Fa Hu. Mona Lisa is especially famous for her mysterious smile, which seems to glow in the light. It is said that when looking at the painting in person, at first glance it appears as though she's smiling, but when we look directly at her mouth, it almost seems downturned. The changing nature of the smile makes it seem lifelike, reflecting a deeper humanity. Giorgio Vasari claimed that the smile was a divine act, as though God were communicating his divine magic through Leonardo's brush. But this is misleading. Leonardo was an accomplished scientist as well as an artist, and he achieved the smile through his knowledge of light and how our eyes work. Leonardo discovered that the central area of the eye is able to identify small details, like the edges of Mona Lisa's lips. The area surrounding the central area, though, is better at identifying shadows of black and white. In other words, when we look at an image directly, it appears sharper, but when we look at it from the corner of our eye, it appears blurrier. Knowing this, Leonardo was able to create a living smile. The fine brushstrokes around Mona Lisa's mouth create a slight downturn. If we look at the mouth too closely, our eyes focus on these details, giving her a neutral expression. But if we look slightly away to her eyes or another part of the painting, we can only see her mouth peripherally. The small details around the corner of her mouth disappear from our vision, and we are left only to see the shadows at her mouth's edge. The shadows make her lips seem to turn upward into a soft smile. The result is that we see the smile more the less we look at it. But this effect is best seen in person, so you'll have to go to France to get the full effect. It seems that while Leonardo painted the Mona Lisa for the Giocondo family, he never gave it to them. Some say this is because he was never fully paid for it. Others have said that when more lucrative assignments appeared, he delayed the painting, leaving it incomplete. In any event, he carried the painting with him for 16 more years, working on it until he died. The journey the painting has taken from the last years of Leonardo's life to the present day is just as interesting as the composition of the painting itself. As an Italian painting by an Italian artist, it's interesting that the Mona Lisa ended up in France. As a matter of fact, it is the legal property of the French government. So how did it find a home outside Italy? In 1516, Leonardo was invited by the King of France, Francois I, to work at his court. He took the Mona Lisa with him to France and continued to work on it. In 1518, Francois I seemed to have acquired the painting from Leonardo, who died shortly afterwards in 1519. Francois kept it at his palace, Fontainebleau, for almost a century. In the 17th century, the French King Louis XIV moved the painting to his new palace, Versailles, where it stayed for another 100 years. However, during the French Revolution, the French monarchy was removed from power. Art that had been held in royal collections were moved to the Louvre Museum. The Mona Lisa was one of those pieces. But that didn't stop the painting from enchanting another French ruler. Once Napoleon took control of France, he had the painting moved from the Louvre. As we learned in our Dongni course, for a time he hung it in his bedroom. It has been said that he would stare at the painting for hours, taking in its beauty. Apparently, Napoleon's fascination with the Mona Lisa caused him to become obsessed with a woman who looked like the painting. And it turns out that woman was actually a descendant of Lisa del Giocondo. However, Napoleon would be the last time the Mona Lisa was held privately. Once Napoleon was deposed, it was returned to the Louvre Museum, where it has largely stayed ever since. In 2003, the museum underwent renovations that gave the Mona Lisa its own room, where it sits beneath a beautiful glass ceiling. The room for the Mona Lisa is always crowded. Tourists line up for hours, all for the chance to see the painting for a few seconds from behind a partition. And yet, the painting is small, only around 2 feet in height and width. Some might think that it's a bad experience to wait so long to see something small for a few seconds. And yet, it's estimated that every year around 6 million come to visit the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is heavily protected. It sits in an unbreakable glass case that is kept at about 6 degrees Celsius. Some have called this arrangement the world's prettiest prison. A small light on a shelf in front of the case helps diminish the reflection from the glass, as well as bring out the colors of Leonardo's original paints. It may seem strange for one piece of art in a museum of millions of pieces to enjoy such extensive security. But these measures are not without justification. In 1911, the painting was stolen. It was one of the most famous art heists in history. It happened one early Monday morning before the Louvre opened for visitors and when there were no guards around. At first, no one thought anything was wrong. The person who first noticed the missing painting assumed that it had been taken down for cleaning or to another museum. Once the Louvre realized what happened, though, panic set in. The museum and even France's borders were shut down. Originally, the police suspected that a famous poet who had often criticized the Louvre had stolen the painting. Some thought that the artist Pablo Picasso was involved, and still others believed it was the Emperor of Germany. However, 2 years later, the real culprit revealed himself, and the story of the theft was more ordinary than many had imagined. The painting was stolen by an ordinary Louvre employee. He stole the Mona Lisa by hiding it in a broom closet and then carrying out the painting under his jacket when the museum had closed. The employee was Italian, and he stole the painting because he felt it should be displayed in an Italian museum. After stealing the Mona Lisa, the employee simply kept it in his apartment for 2 years. Eventually, he attempted to sell it to an Italian gallery, after which he was arrested. He served 6 months in prison for his crime, but was also celebrated for his patriotism in Italy. What do you think of his motives? Were they justified? It was this incident that made the Mona Lisa famous. Before its theft, the painting was not widely known to the public. It was only in the 1860s that the painting became respected in art circles, but even after it was put in the Louvre, it was not any more popular than other paintings. When it was stolen, it took 28 hours before anyone noticed it was missing. But the theft became an international sensation. Newspapers around the world ran front-page stories on the heist. Almost overnight, the painting became the most famous in the Louvre. Thousands of people lined up just to see the empty space where the painting used to hang. R.A. Scotti, a historian who wrote about the theft, said the Mona Lisa left the Louvre as a work of art and returned as an icon. People across France cheered when the painting was finally recovered. Perhaps they need to first lose something before they realize how valuable it is. Or perhaps the hysteria simply led to hype. If it had been another painting, would the reaction have been the same? As the Mona Lisa has become more famous, it has given rise to debate about the woman in the painting. Some have argued that there is more to Lisa del Giocondo than we assume. One theory proposes that the painting is actually a self-portrait of Leonardo. According to some computer programs of Leonardo's self-portraits, his facial features are actually similar to the Mona Lisa's. Since Leonardo is widely suspected to have been a homosexual, some historians believe that the painting is a playful portrait of him in female form. As we learned in our Dongni course, one theory argues that Mona Lisa's lack of eyebrows indicates that she was a prostitute. It seems that in 16th century Italy, prostitutes had hairless faces to make themselves more sexually arousing. Another piece of evidence to support this theory is her hair. Hair hanging down loosely at the shoulders was associated with unmarried women and prostitutes. Others, however, have argued that the lack of eyebrows reflected high-class fashion at the time. This theory may prove to be more true than the others. Research has revealed that Leonardo's father, Piero, knew Francesco del Giocondo for years and lived around the corner to one another. What's more, Leonardo's father had already helped Leonardo find work in the past, because Leonardo had a reputation for being bad with business. Some historians believe it is quite plausible, then, that Piero helped connect Leonardo with Francesco del Giocondo and arranged for the painting. And since Francesco del Giocondo was rather wealthy, it makes sense that his wife would be in high-class fashion. What's more, evidence suggests that the painting once had eyebrows. In 2007, Detailed digital scans of the painting revealed that Leonardo had painted thick, bold eyelashes on the painting. It seems as if they had simply faded over time. As Ardongny Kors says, perhaps they were inadvertently erased when the painting was cleaned. It would seem that, despite the outlandish theories, Lisa del Giocondo may be who we've always believed she was, the wife of a wealthy merchant. No matter who the subject of the painting actually was, it has inspired people throughout history. Even before the painting became a worldwide sensation, it always seemed to have a small group of dedicated followers. It has been said that when the Mona Lisa was first put on display in the Louvre, occasionally people bearing flowers, poems, and letters came to visit it, as if it was a real person. And as her fame has grown, so has the number of letters she's received. The painting now has its own mailbox, where fans can send notes of admiration, even love, to the painting. It is a rare privilege for a work of art. R.A. Scotti, a historian of the Mona Lisa, points out that even though the Louvre has more than 1 million works of art, only the Mona Lisa receives her own mail. Scotti has also pointed out that the painting has often made people do strange things. Considering how Napoleon actually became obsessed with a woman who looked like the painting, it seems to have a rare and mysterious power over people. But there are other examples too. Some have committed suicide over the painting. In 1852, an artist named Luc Maspero threw himself from the 4th floor of a hotel. The suicide note he left claimed that after years of trying to comprehend the beauty of her smile, he would prefer to die. It happened again in 1910 when one fan visited the painting, took out a pistol, and shot himself in the head. It sounds like these men felt a love for the painting that was deeper than a love for another person. And when the Mona Lisa went missing in 1911, some suspected it had to do with the same kind of fanatical love. One professor at the Sorbonne believed that the painting was stolen by a sexual psychopath who would abuse the painting out of a mad obsession. Of course, this wasn't true. But the fact that someone could even imagine such an outcome shows the powerful impact the painting seems to have. This is all for today. Let's have a quick review. First, we talked about the title and subject of the Mona Lisa. Second, we learned the history of the painting. Third, we discussed reasons why the painting is so famous. There is no doubt that the Mona Lisa is one of the world's most recognizable pieces of art. With its beauty and mystery, it will likely continue to captivate people from now until the very end of time. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time, everyone. Goodbye.